Rockford's home for classic rock, 96.7 The Eagle. Good morning, I'm Double T, and I'm celebrating. We are all celebrating the 40th anniversary of the BMO Harris Bank Center, also known as the Rockford MetroCentre. Very special guest joining me, Don Kronberg from NiteLite Promotions. Don, how you doing today?
Well, good morning, Double T, and you just made me feel even older than I am. 40 years?
Can you believe it? That's how long that building's been here in town.
Well, and that means that I've been doing this for 31 years, and that makes me feel really old because I swear I was a little kid when I started in this business. Maybe I wasn't a little kid in my mid-20s, but man, did that make me feel old. Well, congratulations to the Rockford MetroCentre and BMO Harris Bank Pavilion. I think that's the correct name, right?
BMO Harris Bank Center.
Close.
So
it'll always be the Rockford MetroCentre to me.
Yeah, and that's how it is. You know, Comiskey Park, Sears Tower, MetroCentre. It's all, you know, we all have kind of our feelings of how original names are. And when, you know, the sponsorships come in, well, you know, we call them that.
It's like the Sears Center just changed hands. And it's called the Now Arena, but for me, because I live right down the street from the Sears Center, it's always going to be the Sears Center. But that's awesome because I have a lot of history with the Rockford MetroCentre.
Well, first of all, before we get into that, talk a little bit about your company, NiteLite Promotions, and what you guys do if people aren't familiar with it.
Okay, well, number one, we are a concert promotions company. And we started this business in 1990. My very first show was Jerry Seinfeld. It was my first booking, Jerry Seinfeld, at the Drury Lane Theater in Oak Brook Terrace, Illinois. And here we are, fast-forwarding up 31 years, and we've produced nearly 2,000 concerts and events, and we've done so many shows in Rockford, Chicago, Waukegan, Joliet. The list goes on, plus, you know, a variety of other cities throughout the Midwest. So what NiteLite is again, we book shows. So we negotiate and secure talent. We bid against other companies. And if we win, we get that show in that given city. And it's our job to then take that show that we booked and promote it. And not only promote it, but provide all the services that are needed to put on a show. And that's, you know, renting the building, security, ushers and ticket takers, marketing the event, catering, EMTs. Help me, you can jump in because you've been to a million shows. Pretty much any detail, barricades, pretty much any detail that revolves around a show, concert, we have to provide. And, you know, it's not as hard as it actually seems because you develop a network of people both at the building and local vendors that help you. And it's a team effort in how we do it. But there's a lot of work that goes into each and every show that we've done. In fact, I can't believe that I've done this 2,000 times.
I know. What made you get into the concert business in the first place? Because first of all, it's hard to break into. And second of all, it is a crazy business and you never know what's going to happen.
God, you know what, Double T? I'm a complete whack job, really. I think if we look back at the history of Don Kronberg, they will remember me as a certified whack job someday because anybody who can get into this business or who wants to get into this business has to be absolutely certifiably crazy, and that, I guess, is me. But actually, in essence, you know, really the way that I kind of got into this business was the fact that I was a radio DJ many years ago and started my wonderful short-lived career in Rockford, Illinois, winning a guest DJ contest at WZOK in 1987. And I don't know how many weeks that went on. I think it was somewhere between 8 and 16 weeks. And they had a contestant on the air every week. And little did I know that I was going to go on and become that winner. And that would start me off in a relatively short-lived radio career. I was a mess. I was a hot mess. I only did it for the chicks and the partying aspect. Here I am, man. I'm coming clean right now. And as a matter of fact, my very first night on the air, my actual audition night, when I look back, and I had to actually dig deep into my short amount of brain cells these days. I was on the air the night that Bon Jovi played the Rockford MetroCentre, June 5th, 1987. And all I remember was ripping Bon Jovi and his hair products and everything else. And if you actually looked at me back in the day, I had the same kind of hair that Bon Jovi did. Actually, I was a little bit jealous. But, yeah, my first night on the air, so I ended up spending about 5 years at ZOK as a part-timer. And I had a lot of fun, met an incredible amount of people, a lot of great friends to this day. And what it actually taught me was that I knew going into it, I really loved concerts. I mean, I had been to shows since I was a 15-year-old, and I met a bunch of people, and I decided while I was in Rockford, you know what, I have to give this a shot. So I met a guy along the way that lived in the Chicagoland area who became a mentor of mine, and he used to be a real bigwig in the concert business. And he took me under his arm, and he introduced me to some people locally, Drury Lane Theater, City of Oak Brook Terrace, and he gave me the opportunity to start buying shows for the city. So once a month, it was my job to put on a show for the residents of Oak Brook Terrace, Illinois. It was a Monday night. It had to be on a Monday night because the theater had Broadway-style programming every other night of the week. So my first show was Jerry Seinfeld, and it allowed me to learn some very valuable lessons on how to deal with artists, on how to fulfill rider requirements, how to negotiate deals without actually having to risk my own money. And then somewhere along the way, and I think it was late 91, I decided, one, I had enough money in my pocket, and it was time for me to do my very first publicly promoted show. So in 1992, I booked Howie Mandel at the Rockford MetroCentre, Sunday, August 30th, 1992. That day will never be forgotten by me because, one, it was a huge success, taught me a lot of things, and it also provided one of the most memorable stories to this day with regards to an incident that happened at one of my shows. So allow me to tell the story. So during the show, it was probably about 3/4 of the way through the show, Howie was like, "Hey, everybody, I'm really hungry. Is there a place where I can order a pizza locally?" And everybody started screaming out responses. And Capri was called out by an audience member, and I heard it clearly, and he goes, "Great, does anybody have a cell phone?" Well, back then, cell phones were still those big old bricks that people carry.
Oh, yeah, I had one of those.
Yep, and somebody in the front row had a phone and said, "Here you go, Howie," and he threw this big, bulky cell phone up on stage. Somebody gave Howie the number, and he patched it in over the PA system. And the phone rings. It's probably around 9 o'clock at night on a Sunday. And this old man, answers the phone, says, "Hello, Capri." And Howie says, "Hi, I'm Howie Mandel, and I'd like to order some pizza." And the guy had no idea on who Howie was and said, "Okay, well, how many pizzas would you like to order?" And he pauses and he goes, "Well, I need enough pizza to feed about 4,000 people." Huge roar from the audience. I was laughing my butt off stage, as was everybody else. And then all of a sudden you hear, click. The phone goes dead. The owner of the pizza place hung up the phone. And all of a sudden you hear this booing throughout the arena. Howie pauses, probably takes like a 1-minute pause and goes, "Wouldn't it be really funny if we all showed up for our pizza after the show?"
Oh, that's a great idea.
That's a great idea. Yeah, let me tell you. So he finishes his show up, and he goes, "All right, guys, I'll see you down at Capri." He walks off stage. We go to the dressing room. He goes, "Hey, do you seriously think many people are going to show up there?" And I'm like, "Howie, you have no clue as to what type of rabid fans you have." So I arranged for the limousine that we had to take him back to the airport to take me, him, and his tour manager for that short, 2-block ride to Capri. We pull up to Capri. It's completely surrounded from the front of the street to the side of the building. We get out of the car. We can't get through the front door because it was locked. So we're making our way, parting the sea through the crowd. We finally get to the side door. We go into the restaurant. I mean, it was just this loud, raucous affair. We walk up to the counter. The old man is there, I think, along with his son. And Howie goes, "Hi, I'm Howie Mandel, and I'm here to pick up my pizza." And I'm not kidding you, man. There had to be somewhere between 500 and 1,000 people at the pizza place. It was one of the funniest moments. I know Howie recorded some footage that night, and I think somewhere along the way it might have appeared on one of his specials. But, I haven't seen Howie a lot throughout the last, decade. But when I do run into Howie on that rare occasion, I'm like, "Howie, remember Rockford?" And he goes, "Oh, man, how can I ever forget Rockford?" So, there you go. There's your first show story with me and Howie Mandel and the crazy patrons of Rockford, Illinois.
See, that's awesome. That's a way to start a new career and a new business.
So there was another really funny story. During the show, Howie had an opening act who was a musician. He played the piano and he sang songs. Don't ask me why Howie had that type of opening act. Anyways, during the show, after each song, there would be polite applause. Well, Howie was like, "Hey, you guys, come on over here." I wasn't a part of this, by the way. So we arranged for a couple crew members and a guy who worked for me. After a song ended, the opening act would look out into the audience for applause. The curtain to the backstage area would open up, and everybody dropped their trousers and showed their bare rear end through the curtain while the crowd roared. The crowd roared. So he did that after 3 songs in a row, right at the end of the opening act set. The show ends, the opening act walks off, and Howie goes, "Well, how did you think you did tonight?" And he goes, "Man, I absolutely crushed it tonight. Did you hear that response?"
Hey, you gotta help the guy out, right?
So Howie Mandel will always have a very fond spot in my small heart.
Well, I mean, it's such a great thing to get that first show in, but how about the first sellout? Because that's got to be the next goal for you.
Dude, and again, equally as important, and ironically, my very first sold-out arena show was with REO Speedwagon and Survivor on March 9th, 1994. And I think it was only my second or third show at the MetroCentre. Obviously, Howie was my first, but it was just such an incredible feeling. And I think I might have shared a photo with you that might end up on your website. I have a feeling someday of me and Kevin Cronin and the guys after the show. And if you'll look at my poodle reddish hairdo that almost matched Kevin Cronin's reddish poodle hairdo, I shake my head, and it's worth definitely checking it out if you share that with your listeners, because that was me back then. I certainly embodied the 1980s, and I definitely carried it through into the late 90s with that look until I started having kids and decided maybe this isn't the way I should look anymore. So, but yeah, what a wonderful memory. And really, over the last, 26 years, I've done so many REO Speedwagon shows, and to this day, Kevin Cronin calls me his long-lost cousin because he pronounces my name Kronberg, and his last name is Cronin. So every time he sees me, or if he hears that I'm at a show, he always calls for me to join him in the dressing room. And it's really funny because that was one of my favorite bands growing up in the late 70s, 80s. And fast forward to 94, it becomes my first sold-out arena show. And then, here we are, and I'm 57 and a half years old right now, and REO Speedwagon is one of my main clients, so it's pretty cool, man. I mean, there's some really, really cool memories that I have, and a lot of them took place at the Rockford MetroCentre.
You know what? I was at that show, too. That was an incredible show.
Yeah, man. It was special. It was very special, and, it's crazy that it was that long ago, but the memories I have, it's crazy that I actually have memories of older shows, but I can't tell you what I had for breakfast yesterday.
It's the 40th anniversary of the Rockford MetroCentre / BMO Harris Bank Center. I'm talking to Don Kronberg from NiteLite Promotions, concert promoter who's brought many, many shows to Rockford through the years. And what makes Rockford so special of a place for you, and it's been so successful for you and your shows?
That's a really good question, man. You know what? I'm going to go back to the old radio days and then the start of this business in Rockford, Illinois. I just think that the fans in Rockford, Illinois are just the best. You know what? They don't, it's kind of funny when you travel city to city. I just think we have such jaded audiences in so many of the markets that we do shows in. I'm not poking fun at them. That's just the way they are. But in Rockford, man, they're real. They wear it on their sleeves. They get so excited, so pumped about each and every one of the shows that come to town. I can't tell you throughout the years how many artists have walked off stage and, I asked them, well, what'd you think of the show tonight? And they were like, oh, my God, if we could just take this crowd with us on tour and replicate this every single night. And they truly mean it. And, I get to witness it from the side of the stage, so I get to see what they see a lot of times, or I'll wind my way into the audience during a show. But I got to be honest, there's so many crazy, wonderful concert goers in Rockford, and they do. They support our shows, and they always have, and that's why to this day I enjoy doing shows in Rockford.
And I think they really appreciate having the shows here and not having to drive to Chicago or Milwaukee or Madison or the Quad Cities or something. So anytime you can put a show actually in town, I think they really appreciate it.
You know what? I agree, man. And you know what? The way our concert business works these days with radius clauses and these big money guarantees that festivals and certain markets pay, and then they exclude certain cities from playing to go along with that. And Rockford seems to get unfairly treated on a frequent basis. And my argument is that you're right. There's a lot of people in Rockford. Number one, it's a huge city, one of the biggest cities in the state of Illinois. And if you bring the show to Rockford, they will come. If you bring the show to Rosemont or Chicago, they will still come, and they will still sell out the arenas. So it's a battle I face on a almost daily basis, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. It's a fight I fight a lot, and I try to talk acts and agents and managers into playing Rockford because Rockford is such a good city to play.
And I don't think people understand the concert business because obviously they're not part of it. They just come to the shows. But, it isn't a case of, well, let's invite REO Speedwagon to play here and then they'll play here. I mean, obviously we would love to have them play here, but there's a lot more to it than just calling them up. Hey, Kevin, come to Rockford this Tuesday and play a show.
Yeah, I wish it was that easy, but unfortunately, you're right, it's not, and it's a bidding process. So what'll happen is, we'll use REO Speedwagon as a perfect example. They'll plot out a tour, and let's just say it's a 40-city tour. Well, that 40 cities has to encompass pretty much the United States, so they start blocking it off into regions and key markets that have to be played. The major cities, Chicago has to be played, New York, L.A., Boston, the list goes on and on. So then you end up with 10 to maybe 20 cities that don't make the first cut. And then what happens is every promoter and venue under the sun gets involved because we all want an REO Speedwagon date in our markets. And then what we do is we put in offers for various cities that we actually do shows in, and we fight for them. But a lot of times it comes down to money, number one, how much are we willing to pay versus another city? And number two, are there radius clauses in place that prevent us from playing a city like Rockford, Peoria, Springfield, cities like that. So it's tough, man. It's a fight every year. But you know what? Most acts, REO Speedwagon is a great example of an act that realizes how important Rockford is and always has been since day one. I mean, if you look back at the history of REO Speedwagon, I can't tell you how many times I've either had them in the market or they've played the market, prior to me getting into this business. They probably played the market at least 20 to 25 times over the course of their career, and I might be severely underestimating that number, starting with their club days. So you kind of count on history. Certain types of acts, country, rock, classic rock, and comedy fare very well in Rockford, and a lot of agents and managers and even artists themselves know that and may ask that Rockford and, Peoria, for that matter, get put into the routing on the next tour that they do.
I'm talking to Don Kronberg from NiteLite Promotions, talking about the 40th anniversary of the BMO Harris Bank Center, also known as the Rockford MetroCentre. So, Don, obviously strange and crazy times over the past several months. no concerts, no live events. What is the concert industry up to now, and where's it going in the near future?
That is another good question. I think we still have a lot of head scratching going on. I think as we speak, it's getting a little bit more positive. Ever since the vaccine started hitting the street, we're starting to see signs of life again. But to be openly honest, and everybody comes to me for this question, but if you ask me when things will probably get back to normal again, it probably won't be until fall, and probably late fall. I'm banking on October 1st as the time where we can get you back into the BMO or the Coronado, and not only get you back in, but make you feel comfortable being back in. There's so much conversation and protocol being put into place right now with regards to keeping people safe. But I think a lot of it really depends upon vaccinations, and we've got to get people to take these vaccinations. I don't know about you, but I'm raising my hand right now. As soon as I get the opportunity to take the vaccine, it's going into my arm. If it comes today, if somebody called me today and said, could you drop this call right now and head over, I'd do it right now in a heartbeat, because I don't feel our world can get back to normal until a good portion of us have had this vaccine, or a good portion of us have had the horrible COVID virus and lived to see another day and might be immune for that reason. But, in the meantime, I think we're optimistic. I think there's going to be some outdoor summer activity, and I'm holding out hope, because if we can get the outdoor sheds open, even at partial capacity, that's going to make it a lot easier for me and my customers to go indoors this fall, or earlier this fall than I had planned. But in the meantime, what I'm actually working on are drive-in shows. We had experienced some great success late this fall. I got on board too late to experience the summer, but courtesy of the shows that we did in drive-in theaters across the Midwest this fall, we're going to go back and do it again. We're going to do it at the McHenry Outdoor Drive-In in McHenry, where we had some fantastic shows. We had Sully Erna and Aaron Lewis. So Sully Erna is the lead singer of Godsmack, and Aaron Lewis was the former lead singer and current lead singer of Stained, and that was we ended up doing 2 sold-out shows in one day. We ended up doing 2 sold-out shows with Eliza Schlesinger there, and you know what? People really dig the drive-in shows. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to attend one, and if you haven't, I'm going to encourage you to do so, but really, it was a lot of fun this year. I mean, I think a lot had to do with COVID and people being cooped up, but I can't tell you how many people came up to me personally and thanked me at every one of the drive-in shows that we did this year. And it was quite heartwarming. And at the same time, I knew I did something really, really good for our concert goers and for myself included.
You know what? That's awesome. I'm glad. And that's the thing I think about, what's been going on is the creativity and the imagination that people and businesses have been showing to adapt to the times.
I agree. I agree. And you know what? I fought the concept. I have to be honest. I talked to peers in my industry that work for my biggest competitor, Live Nation, and they were like, we ran the numbers backwards and forwards, and there's no way you're going to make any money. We're friends of yours. Don't do this. Don't risk your money. And I listened to them for a while, but I think between a combination of, one, I wanted to keep the guys who work for me employed, and I've managed to do so since the pandemic began. And honestly, that's just wonderful for me to be able to say that. And number two, I was just bored. I was bored, man. I was missing live shows. I was missing working all the elements. And most importantly, I was missing my fan connection. I mean, that's the payoff for me at a show. 2,000 events. Everybody asks me, what is the number one thing that you take away? What pleasure do you derive the most from anything? Is it meeting an artist? I'm like, oh, heck no. It's seeing the looks on people's faces and knowing that they invested their hard-earned money into one of my shows, and just to watch that reaction for 2 hours, man, I'm going to tell you right now, it's the greatest high one can experience. So that's what made me get back into the business sooner than I thought I would be doing it. And I can't wait to do shows again this year. Like right now we're looking at shows for Texas and Florida and a couple of the other southern states because the restrictions are a little bit looser down there. But I can't wait for normal days to return to the Midwest, specifically the Chicagoland area and Rockford, where we can start doing what we know how to do the best and bringing music back to the fans again.
If people want to find out, what concerts and stuff you guys got coming up, where's the best place they can keep track of you?
Well, I know our website's going through some work right now. We're going to have a new website launching in a little bit because we've got time on our hands to rebuild it.
Right.
NiteLite.com, NiteLite.com, or, of course, you can check with any of the venues that you frequent. They're going to keep you up to date on schedules. They're going to keep you up to date on change of dates. That's all we've been doing since March is moving shows to different time periods and then moving them again, and then in some cases moving them again as well. And what we're asking people to do is to be very patient with us. Don't return your tickets. When we move a date to another date, we plan on playing that show. That artist plans on playing in Rockford, Illinois. And just do me a favor and hold on to your tickets because we need fans in seats when the doors open again.
That's great advice. Don Kronberg from NiteLite Promotions, thank you so much for all you do for our city and bringing all these great shows for all the fans.
Thank you, Double T. And I can't wait to get back to Rockford.
It's Rockford's home for classic rock, 96.7 The Eagle.